When Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery, they had no idea how their actions were part of God's great plan for Joseph. Joseph would rescue his family from starvation during the famine and bring them into Egypt, where the nation of Israel would grow. God brings good results even from evil plans. And just as God sent Joseph to rescue his family, God sent Jesus to rescue us from our sins, make us his family, and bring us into his kingdom.
Forgive. To stop feeling angry and to stop blaming a person for something wrong he or she has done. To be friends again. God forgives everyone who believes that Jesus died to take the punishment for his or her sins. When God forgives a person, God forgets the person's sins forever. God instructs Christians to forgive each other in the same way he has forgiven them.
Are you good at guessing? Have you ever closed your eyes and had people talk around you and guess who was talking? We played a game kind of like that with our eyes closed in the pool this last weekend, and it was kind of fun. It was a smaller pool, and we'd close our eyes, and it was kind of a form of Marco Polo, and you had to try and find people, but we weren't hearing their voices. We were guessing where they might be, and it was a lot of fun, but we were laughing so hard, and we had to be quiet because if we were loud, then they could hear us and they would know where to go in the pool. So it was a whole lot of fun. So it was a different way, but sometimes we don't recognize the voices of others. And in the story today, someone looked and sounded differently than how his family members remembered him. And he is in our story today. Genesis 43:16 is where we are going. So Jacob was now missing 2 sons. He thought Joseph was dead, and now his son Simeon was in prison in Egypt. As if that wasn't bad enough, now all of the grain that they'd brought back from Egypt was gone. Jacob told his sons to go back to Egypt to buy food. Remember that we can't get anything unless we bring Benjamin with us, Judah said. Jacob was not happy with his other sons. Why did you bring this trouble on me, telling this Egyptian all about our family? But Judah promised that he would get Benjamin back safely, and everyone just got more hungry. Finally, Jacob said, "Fine. Take some gifts with you and all the silver from the last visit and more silver for this visit." Because remember, Joseph had put the silver that they brought back into their bags. "Take Benjamin, and if I lose him, I lose him." That must have been hard. It must have been really hard. He loved his sons and he loved Benjamin, and he didn't want to lose him, but he had to think about all of the other people that needed to eat to survive. So off the brothers went, hurrying to this Egyptian ruler, the ruler that they didn't know was really their brother Joseph. When they arrived, Joseph had his servants take the brothers to his own home, and that was very unusual. Then Joseph's servant brought Simeon out to join them. When Joseph arrived, they all bowed down and they presented their gifts. But the only gift Joseph cared about was his little brother. How do you think he reacted to seeing him? I bet he was super happy. In fact, that's what it tells us. He was so happy to see him that he cried. The brothers all sat where they were told. They were sitting in the order in which they were born. Isn't that interesting? They were sitting, and how could the Egyptians know who was the oldest to the youngest? Interesting, huh? When the food was served, Benjamin got 5 times as much as the others. And that seems strange too. Why would he get 5 times as much food as the others? It makes you wonder what Joseph is thinking right there, right? When it was time to go, Joseph made sure the brothers all had plenty of grain to take home, and he had his servant put back all of the silver that they'd paid both times. Then he had the servant put his own special cup into Benjamin's grain sack. Joseph had a plan. No sooner had the brothers left than Joseph sent people to stop them. Of course, the brothers didn't know that Joseph's cup was in Benjamin's bag. They promised they would all be slaves if the cup was in their possession. Joseph, however, said that only the one who had the cup would become his slave. Can you believe that? That's tricky. Judah pleaded, "No, it will kill my father. I'll be a slave in his place. Please." While Judah begged, Joseph realized that his brothers didn't hate Benjamin like they'd hated him. They also cared about their father Jacob, and suddenly it was too much for Joseph. He cried out to his servant, "Send everyone else out of here." So some things to think about with this. Joseph had them sit in order of oldest to youngest. The brothers didn't tell him how they were born, but that's how he had sat them. On top of that, he gave Benjamin more food than the others, so he was testing them to see if they could figure out who he was and if they were the same way they were when he was younger. Well, they didn't take Benjamin's food from him, so that was good. But then when Joseph decided to put that cup in his pack, that was his way of finding out how his brothers really cared. Were they going to throw him under the bus like they did him? And they didn't. They didn't respond that way. So that was pretty awesome. And during this whole time, Joseph never spoke to them in the same language. He spoke to them in the Egyptian language. So he pretended he couldn't understand them, even though he could. So that's kind of the cool thing about all of this, is like he had these tests, and he had them for a reason. Then Joseph turned to his brothers. "I am Joseph," he cried out, and began to weep. The brothers looked at each other, terrified. I'm sure they were thinking, what's he going to do to us? Joseph called his brothers to himself. "It's me. It's really me, Joseph, the one you sold into slavery and sent to Egypt. Now don't be afraid, and don't be angry at yourselves. God sent me here ahead of you," he said. "God put me here and put me in charge so that I could save our family from starving." Can you imagine how surprised his brothers were? The very brother they hated and sold was right there in front of them, forgiving them for all of it and inviting them to come and live near him and let him take care of them. The brothers hurried and told their father Jacob. He was shocked too. All of his years of sadness, all that time, God had a good plan, a big plan that no one could have imagined. And because Joseph was willing to forgive his brothers completely and then invite them to live near him, they packed up everything and went back to Egypt, and Joseph took care of them all their lives. Blessings to you. Have a fantastic week. We miss you. If you're able to, please join us at church on Sundays at 10:30. We have children's church here in the building with no masks. Hope to see you soon.
Colossians 3:13. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Colossians 3:13.